This is Patitos Gang. You are welcome. There are those who just said before we went on air that we should send a signal out that people should all wear black armbands as they watch the program. But I said, haha. The subject, Imo, elections, Supreme Court. How does it manage to happen? And I don't know any specific reasons for judgment, left, right, or center, but just how does it manage to happen that the most powerful court in a land can give a judgment that brings most normal people to a sense of ponder about what we really are about? How does that somehow even manage to happen? There used to be options. The thing is so controversial, so awkward, so nasty. Okay, rerun elections. But no. It's not rerun elections. It's rearranging numbers. And then people can now prove on pages of newspaper that the numbers don't add up. What does that do to the legitimacy of our institutions? How does that allow us to hold up our head in dignity? I'm not sure in law what is right or wrong in these matters, but all I know is that I feel small to be a Nigerian from the kind of comments I've heard people, Nigerian and foreign, make about this judgment on Imo State. What really was that judgment about? What were the issues? Is there any way we can bring light to confuse people out there about what happened?
You see, Supreme Court is not infallible, as Oputa rightly put it. The truth of the matter is that right now we might not comment on that subject but that does not mean we cannot talk about the feelings of the people, because I think that's exactly where you're going.
We're talking about
yes.
Feelings.
Yes. You see, one thing that makes me happy today is that the Supreme Court have accepted to hear it again. Yeah. Let's leave it at that matter. But moving forward, like you rightly asked, when did our elections and judiciary descend to such a very low level to where ordinary people on the street begin to scratch their head and say, what has gone wrong here? You see, in justice doesn't have to be seen. Justice is not just something that you do. It has to be seen to be done.
Yes.
And it has to be seen to be done by a layman that will say, you know what, I think something here seems to be right, and that's the only place I can go. And the state you're talking about, I happen to come from that state. I tell you, I buried my face in shame because we are on the news for the wrong reasons. But having said that, we are learning. So I see it that hopefully, nobody knows the way they will go. They will be able to correct the wrong, if any. If not, let them at least let us know.
Explain it to us.
Explain it to us.
Idiots like me can at least understand.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah, you get it. A professor saying that he doesn't understand it. And I wonder how those that are ordinary men on the street.
Yes, maybe
how they will take it.
Maybe so the Supreme Court judgment of January 14 is a ninth wonder of our time. Again, it needs to be restated that it does look like this is a shame of a nation. And that's why we have heard it repeatedly said over and again that strong institutions are preferred or preferable to strong men leading nations. Because this points to the failure of a critical institution in nation building and to strengthen our democracy. Because if that's where you run to get justice, and when what seems to be justice comes and everybody's scratching their heads, is it really justice that it now takes to come to fourth position to become first? You know, too many questions And like you said, again, first disclaimer, I'm also from Imo State. So we are involved in this matter because it's about us. And in an issue that has been discussed on this platform, the judiciary in democratic journey, do the will and the wishes of the people no longer matter? At what point should the judiciary intervene in the will of the people? Because Imo State people clearly made their choice on March 9 as to who they wanted to govern them.
So I do a cool's eye. I'm not from Imo State, but I have friends in Imo State, and I think
Like me?
Of course,
you can't amongst them.
of course, you're my friend, and I know for sure that the wheels of justice
It may turn slowly, but
grind very well. Let me clearly state here that I feel with some sections of the Igbo people, because when you go to elections, there will be a majority and then there will be some minority, so to speak. So certainly there will be some people who still want to be on the other side. But on the whole, I sympathize with what is happening in Imo State. I like to say that the Imo State conundrum is just one amongst many that we've had, not necessarily this dispensation. We've had some where judges' hands have been tied in the First Republic. And so they had to make some pronouncements, and they clearly say that such pronouncements should not be cited as a precedent. I also agree with my fellow Imolites who cautions a little bit that Justice Okuta's famous dictum that the Supreme Court of Nigeria is not supreme because they are infallible. And they are not fallible because they are supreme, they are human beings. The law of common sense tells me that the way and manner that we have prosecuted cases, the incompetence is such that when lawyers, according to what I read, have not been able to go in front of the courts to prove or to debunk certain things. Again, still does not take away the commonsensical aspect of 2 + 2 + 2 should be 6. And when you are getting 8, where will those other 8 be taken from? Having said all that, I like to defer to wisdom here, even though a lot of people might be hurting. Okay, the Supreme Court, without prejudice to what they are going to say, because anything in front of the court, we are not going to here try to see how we can. In fact, it's not even possible to box them. They will look at whatever it is, and my comments to Nigerians, to the political parties, please, we must do our homework very, very, very well. We must do our democracy, our democratic process in such a way and manner that it will be near sacrosanct as possible, so that we leave this unwholesome body of the Supreme Court.
Aki, I don't want to cut you short. I think you are getting ahead of us and ahead of the issue. I think you are getting ahead of the issue. We have a critical issue here, and you are saying when lawyers do not prove their cases, they don't make this. See, the issue here is all the cases, every matter, and all the whatever happened was laid on ground from the tribunal to the appeal courts. So what Nigerians want to know is this:
How did you arrive?
At this judgment? It doesn't make sense to my mother.
What I would like to find out, because I've declared myself an idiot on this matter, because
it doesn't make sense to my 85-year-old mother. Somebody scores 96,000 votes. All of a sudden, you are awarding him 3. Where?
Your mother is probably in a better position than myself on this matter, because she probably can count better than me. I always was bad with arithmetic.
Because she's smarter, really, she's smarter.
Yes. But you see, my simple arithmetic problem And I understand things about some things that were excluded and brought back. Is how come you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 becomes 1? Yes. You know, just the
I want to demystify some of these things so you guys can know. See, in our 179 or 197 of our Constitution, made it very clear that you must have 25% spread.
Yes.
Now, where most of us who are in the legal profession are scratching our head is that Emeka Ihedioha had 14 out of 27. Hope Uzodinma had only 4.
No, that's if you add the fictitious.
I'm conceding to everything. I'm just telling you from what
I say before Supreme Court now, before the Supreme Court judgment.
My learned gentleman,
before the Supreme Court judgment, he didn't even have any local government.
Can I just put some caution? Yeah. 2 lawyers will look at the same thing and interpret it separately.
We have not gotten to the stage of it. This is not interpretation. This is not matter. This is common sense.
Arithmetic.
This is common sense.
You know,
the Supreme Court has a duty.
That's what we are saying now. Let him. You know, because the point is, we need to understand.
It's okay.
What they have done so far is why we are here. But that's why we are here now. The one they have done.
Have they explained?
Before they explain,
they have ruled. So knowing that none of them has the spread, going back to arithmetic, you cannot jump from 2 to 4 and expect that 4 is superior than 2.
Let me tell you what I scored in addition. Let me tell you what I scored in additional maths. Aki, let me give you my additional maths score.
No binary system.
That's what I'm telling you. That I want to explain my additional maths. Okay. They call it further maths now. I will just go and talk to the people on the streets and find out if they have more sense than Aki or myself. We'll be right back.
When the government is saying that way, it will be reduced. We don't want people that are just striving to get there.
Lawyers tend to enjoy, shall I say, the idea that they work on technicalities. I mean, I've run elections, I've gone to court, and I have felt bad by the way judgments have been given. As a layman who runs for an election, I'm telling the judge that I won the elections. So when, for one reason or the other factors are used to determine who wins, then it's demoralizing. Again, I can't say I have the facts of the case, but having said that, you know, they say justice should not be done, it must be seen to be done. Seen to be done is that for the layman, for the outsider, is that somebody came forth and has been declared winner. And, you know, it's very difficult to sell. Very, very difficult to sell. So for me, I hope, you know, that now that the review is taking place, that the judges of the Supreme Court will be able to explain better, you know, their decision or reverse that decision. But as at this point in time, I'm not sure that they've carried Nigerians along.
And we are back. This is Patitos Gang. There are many things that I know that I do not know. The one thing I know that I know and I know that I know is that I was terrible in additional mathematics. But I think that qualifies me to be on the Supreme Court of Nigeria from what I have learned. If that is not true, then I apologize. But if it is true, I need for us to get some mathematics teachers to help all of us out, both myself and the judges. And my question, therefore, is those of you who follow these things more closely, you know, I'm scattered, I'm running up and down. Can you just give us the math of how we arrive at the kind of conclusion?
Well, the math doesn't add up. So let's just leave it at that. Yes, you are qualified to be in the Supreme Court if that's actually what they crop up to be. But you see, this voodoo arithmetic has not, today, this is not the first time. Don't forget that it's in this country where 9 is bigger than 16. And we looked at it and it went. But the truth of the matter is that Supreme Court, how they arrive at this, is what is in the lips of everybody. And I don't think, to be very quite honest with you, that they can make this algebra stand. Having said that, I will not begin to fight Supreme Court or even to disagree with them for the fact that they have been good enough to say, let's look at it. So let's give them that benefit of doubt, okay? Because sometimes there are certain things that are unexplainable.
Misled, like Kanu Agami said.
Exactly. So let's just leave it at that. And remember, in one of these episodes, I said, once that this thing came out, the judgment came out, I said that the Supreme Court has 60 days to revisit this. And some people try to argue with it on that day. And I'm glad that, yes, they are now revisiting it. So what we need to do is to all fold our arms, listen to them, pray for them, let them do the right thing. Because I talk to people in my state, and I can assure you, what I hear
State of things after
is not...
It's overwhelming for them to review the
But
judgment.
I can help
It's overwhelming.
I can help you a little bit in your...
And you know, part of the puzzle and why people are puzzled.
Let's talk about the puzzle.
Part of the puzzle is that the judgment that was read on January 14 is totally different from the full text of the judgment they released a week after. So
it's three different judgments.
So
They recorded one.
So this is part of
one of 2 days after, and the one of the week after.
So that's why people in Imo State are wondering. Okay, so let me also explain to you. Let me also tell you. Wait, no, Aki, you need to be grounded on the fact. Wait now. No, the algebra is coming. There are things. Listen, this is at the heart. This is at the heart of the life of the people of Imo State.
No, Nigeria.
You start from the people who are directly.
It's more directly. Imo lights are more involved into this.
Now, it's important to elucidate on some of these things. It's important you understand. So look at the fact. The people of Imo State clearly made their choice on March 9, 2019.
As presumed.
Based on what INEC released. Yes. Now, some of the puzzle, again, you need to understand was that this Supreme Court judgment of January 14 was supposed to be delivered on January 17. Then all of a sudden, they just moved it back to January 14. The justices that were supposed to sit on the panel, they kept changing them till that morning. So when all of this now came, they said, okay, is it what this was all about?
The question we are asking is that how do they arrive at this, at the judgment? Can they please explain it to us? And if they can't explain it to us, can they please make an effort to call those who have authority in mathematics to say that somebody scored certain amount of number and you now jump 3 people and hand it over to the other person.
On the other hand, like you said, there's always 2 sides. And if they can explain it to us,
we are waiting. That is why we are waiting.
We should have the capacity to accept those things that we can.
But we have already accepted their distance.
Gentlemen,
yes.
Institutions are manned by people, but they are built on certain principles, certain ethos. Institutions are a function of ordinary people in society deciding that these are the best ways to create boundaries. The people must interrogate continuously their institution. And if what they do comes to some contempt in the minds of ordinary people, whether it is right or wrong, but it amounts to a popular perception of contempt for the institution, those who are responsible for it do a disservice to that institution. I have argued that many of our institutions have now functioned at a level where if we're going to uphold the dignity of the human person, we need supranational institutions to weigh in. I feel, in spite of what African leaders say about the International Court of Justice, I feel proud to be one of those who canvassed the coming into existence of that institution. Because our institutions are far too weak and are losing legitimacy with the people. And that is what is the most important thing for me in this conversation. I'm not really bothered with
I really think in a way,
this individual or that
I really think in a
individual.
way you're making a very strong case for our judiciary, our Supreme Court, because if they understand, you are talking about legitimacy.
Yes.
Okay, they have just delivered a judgment, and it seems to me that the people are wondering, how do you guys come up with this kind of monumental decision? If we can have a spin-off on that, and then begin to interrogate some of these institutions, because some of these institutions seems to me like they are not independent. And when an institution is not an independent, is no longer, it loses its legitimacy.
I am in agreement.
So that is what we are talking. That's what we are talking about. And I don't want to.
Not just the judiciary, all our institutions, just name them. We need to continually, as that is citizen participation. We need to continue to ask. Yes, go through the normal process. We cannot take the laws into our hands, otherwise we get ourselves into a...
Nobody are not taking their laws into their hands now. We have not now.
What is fundamental here that
Yes.
you're shying away from, which is more
I am not shying away from it.
which is more like playing the ostrich.
We are talking...
No, it's plain politics. That's basically what it is.
Let's call
We
it
are talking
what
of
it
the
is.
Supreme
Let's
Court.
call it what it is.
We are talking
We
about
have
the
a
Supreme
judgment
Court of Nigeria.
that was handed down to people, and everyone is
People
scratching their
approach-
head.
Yeah.
Accept that first.
People
hey,
approach the Supreme
this
Court
brings to
for
question,
justice. Excuse me.
because we're asking
People
ourselves,
went to
do we
the
still
Supreme
have
Court
strong
for justice.
institutions
Yes.
that
Yes
can
or no?
defend the masses?
You didn't go to
The
Supreme Court.
has not proven it.
Hang on. You went to Supreme Court because you believe that they will give you justice. Now, if they have not given you justice, you've taken the right steps. Please have a look at it again. They have accepted to look at it again. I am saying I don't think it will be right for us to be casting aspersions.
Nobody is
using,
casting aspersions.
or be using
We are
language.
responding.
Excuse
This
me.
is human
to,
feeling.
to be using language.
What language?
To be using language that I think is untoward to members of our Supreme Court. Look,
Did we call any names here? Did we call anybody?
I'm
names?
surprised.
Why? Don't put us on the spot.
I'm surprised where you're
No,
coming
you're
up
taking
from.
this too
But
far.
having said all that,
as far as I'm concerned, I think it should not be
If you
civil.
have an interest that you represent, state it. That's what this position is about.
that's what
Let
this is
people share their interest.
The interest,
positions. There's
the
nothing
interest,
wrong.
the interest I represent is the rule of law.
okay.
It doesn't
Process
sound so.
if you
and the
represent
fact
the rule of law,
Why are you shying away?
and the fact, no. I'm not a member of the Supreme Court. I'm just saying, let's give them that benefit.
Okay,
And they
we
will
gotta
come back
go.
and give us an
This
explanation.
has been Patitos Gang. And you can continue this conversation Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. This is what Patitos Gang was meant to be. All points of views shared. We'll see you next week.